Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today with me, I have Jenna, who is an ADHD entrepreneur who helps other ADHD entrepreneurs get organized and use systems that actually work for their brains. And I am so thrilled to have her here. Hi, Jenna. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me and thanks for I reached out to you because I found your YouTube channel and you wanted to collab. I was so excited. So I was like, yay, we get to actually meet other people who have a lot in common with us, which is very fun.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's always such a relief to find other ADHD entrepreneurs because I feel like the way we do business is just so incredibly different, which is fine. It's not a bad thing, but it is
Mhm.
different. And it's really nice to have a community of people who like understand what it's like to run a business when you have
Yes.
like 18 squirrels in your brain.
Yeah, there's a Facebook group I'm in. I don't know if you're in it. It's for women entrepreneurs that have ADHD, and I love it because it's yeah, I know. Like I'm in that group all the time because it is all people that think like me. And that's why I love the internet is you can find people so easily that are similar to you that maybe don't live in your town or don't, you would never know that they exist, but because they're making content that you can find them, which is very fun. So
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I will get that link from you and I will put it in the description, folks, so you
yeah.
can all join that Facebook group as well.
Yeah, it's great. My friend Jesse runs it, so it's a really good group, and I've been in it for as long as I know that I have ADHD. So,
Yeah,
so
tell me a little bit about how you found out you have ADHD.
yeah, it was during 2020. It was when a lot of TikTok was like my life basically that year, and I really went down that rabbit hole, and it's been a long journey. I'm also looking into also an autism diagnosis at some point, so maybe ADHD. But that is something that I'm kind of going through a lot of the stuff. I went to a therapist. I got diagnosed with anxiety disorder as well. So it's like, okay, all these things are happening, and for me, it's a lot of just figuring myself out. I've really been on a self-discovery journey the last couple of years with my own health as well. So I've been doing health and I guess mental health the last 4 years. And so in 2021, I started making both Notion and ADHD content on my YouTube channel. And what I realized is I was the first person to ever do specifically Notion content for ADHD entrepreneurs. Um, Marie Poulin, who's one of the most well-known Notion people, she also has ADHD, but she didn't start making content until later about ADHD. So I was the first one to ever put the two together. You can literally go back for Notion and ADHD together, and people were like, "That's like a very specific niche," and I was like, "Yeah, but like." There's so many connections between Notion and ADHD that you like it makes sense to me. And like some people are just like, that seems really niche. Like, but my Facebook group has 5,000 members. So it's like there's a lot of people that are like both that like have ADHD and are looking for tools. And so when I found Notion, I realized, oh my gosh, this is the best tool ever for an ADHD brain because it can be so customized to how we think, which is different than the neurotypical person. And also, uh, uh, again, potentially being autistic, it's like I love to gather information. So it's like I'm really going down that rabbit hole of Notion. So
Oh my goodness. Yes. Okay. So in just a second, I definitely want you to tell me about all the connections between ADHD and Notion and
yes,
why they're such a perfect fit.
yes,
But I did also want to point out that you have a Facebook group, which is awesome. So that will
yes.
also be linked in the description, everybody. So please go join the group. Go
Yes.
find your people.
It's called Notion for ADHD entrepreneurs. That's the name of it. And it's where I post anytime I have an event. So I just hosted one today, a free workshop. I post anytime there's a new update with Notion. So if like they come like for example, Notion charts just came out, I'll just like post it in the group. I also have a few threads. I think it's called like messenger threads where you can like join and then get updates specifically like if you want my latest YouTube video or if you have a question about Notion, it's a great place to like chat and I always answer any questions. So it's kind of like a way to get to me as well because I run the group. Like if you have questions or issues like but also to share we also have a thread where you can share your Notion template. So if you have a Notion template to share, there's a thread for that. So it's a lot of like great ways to connect, especially for people that like Notion. It's very Notion centric.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
So,
Okay, that's great. That sounds like such an amazing resource. So tell me about these connections between Notion and ADHD. Why is
oh,
Notion
okay.
so good
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
ADHD brains?
So ADHD brains. Okay, actually, I'm writing a book right now. So this is like kind of going to be part of the book is the way that no like ADHD brains just work differently than neurotypical brains. We just know that. But one of the things that we love about ADHD is like we're very visual. You know, a lot of people like to see things, right? And most people are, I guess. I'm not saying all, but um ADHDers tend to like to not have restrictions or limits of how things are set up. So a lot of the apps out there are like, this is the way that the app is. Like if you look at Trello, you look at Asana, you look at all these apps, it's like it's structured this way. And like that's the only way you can use it. And for the neurotypical brain, that works. They're like, oh, I love the construct or the constraints and like it'll work. But for the neurodivergent brain, sometimes that doesn't work. And one of the things that I'm realizing about the neurodivergent brain is we've never been taught how to think about the way that we want things to be structured. Like it's always like follow the sheep, like, or like, it's like a just do what you're taught. Like you follow a framework, you follow all this stuff. What I want to talk about is like, how do you make your own framework for yourself? How do you make your brain work for yourself in terms of, okay, well, all of these other tools don't work for me. And it's because you don't know how to structure the way that you work. So would you rather see it visually? Would you rather see it in a to-do list? Would you rather see it in a calendar? We haven't really ever been taught that like you can choose that. And what Notion does is it allows you to experiment and try and see which one works best for the way that you think. So I think that's why I love Notion so much for the ADHD brain is that it doesn't have the limits of a traditional to-do list software or project management software. It's completely like build your own adventure. That's really what I would like consider it is like everything is customizable. You can also embed things into Notion, like my Spotify playlist or anything that uses like an iframe. So you can embed YouTube videos. You can really use it in so many ways that like most softwares can't. You can't like embed a YouTube video in an Excel document. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you can really use it to just make it like a fun place for you to be and have it be an all-in-one tool for a lot of the work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And something else that I think really appeals to a lot of ADHDers about Notion is a lot of ADHDers have something that's called compensatory behaviors, which is where we basically create these behaviors that are meant to compensate for the disability of our ADHD. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
you might be watching this right now and thinking, well, I really resonate with a lot of ADHD traits, but I'm so organized. Like, there's no way I could possibly have ADHD. And that might be true. This is not diagnostic, obviously, but I do want to say that a lot of ADHDers are hyper organized in order to
Mm-hmm.
compensate for our natural distractibility and forgetfulness.
Exactly. And that's something that people always are like, Jenna, you're so organized. I'm like, because I have to be, because it doesn't like, otherwise my life would be chaotic. So I have I see people that have like 100,000 Gmail, like emails, unread. And that to me gives me anxiety because I'm like, I would feel so overwhelmed by all the emails that I have to like create systems for myself with, just, and it's like, it's never going to be always on top of it because again, like it takes me a week or two for me to actually clear my inbox, but it's like I start to feel anxiety if I have too many emails because then I feel overwhelmed, like almost sensory overwhelm with that many emails. So for me, I have to have a clean inbox because then it's like clear mind, right? Clear mind, clear like your desktop is like so important. A lot of people don't realize this. They don't really think about their emails. They make a joke out of it. And I'm like, dude, like it's impacting your mental health and you don't realize it because it's probably so overwhelmed. So one of the things that I really focus on is the concept of digital organization. It's really not talked about a lot, but like I'm so passionate about it because I'm like, it keeps your life so much more on track because a lot of times you're spending time, where's that file? Where's that thing that I downloaded? Where's that email? It's like we spend more time looking for the thing than the actual work that we're actually doing with it. So for me, creating systems for yourself on your computer, which you use every single day, is a priority. And just like you clean your house, I think that's like the goal of my channel, is helping you clean your digital house, is your emails, your photos, and all your files, which is Notion.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the quick math in my head, but I heard someone say this once where it's like, if you take 2 minutes to find your brand colors in Canva every single time, and it takes
Mm-hmm.
you 2 minutes, let's say you do this just for easy math 5 times
Yeah.
a day. That's
Yeah.
already 10 minutes a day,
Yeah.
every day of the week, every day of the year. Like, holy cow, that just it adds
Yeah.
up.
It does. And that's everything. Is like I think the thing is, people think it takes a long time to actually do the cleanup, and it doesn't if you have everything filtered and automated. So, or you do it once a month, and you spend a couple of hours like kind of like yeah, organizing, just like you would your house, right? It's like you don't have to do it every day, or you could, and that would actually save you time in the long run. Sometimes it's better to spend an hour a month doing it, but then you're saving yourself all those 10 minutes throughout the month that you're looking for that thing. So it's like, maybe if you just I don't know if you're a fan of like batching, where you batch a bunch of tasks. So you don't like batching?
Not for me.
No, okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I kind of like it because you kind of get in the flow. So it's like, for me, it's like if I'm going through emails, it's like I'd rather just do it all then. Um, but like you're right, like it depends on the person. So that's another thing, is like, maybe you like batching, maybe you don't. I think people need to start to think about the fact that it's like, how do I like to work? I think that's the thing that we haven't really talked about as a culture, or especially in the neurodivergent world. And that's what I want to write a book on, is like how to work. Like, how do you want to view tasks? Do you like seeing them visually? Do you like seeing them in a list? Like, we don't really talk about this because as a society, we're told do it this way. But a lot of neurodivergent people are like, well, I don't want to do it that way. Like my brain doesn't work that way. It's like, if I don't see it, like, I'm a very visual person. This is a very neurodivergent thing, is like, if I don't see it, I'll forget it exists. So that object permanence, same with Notion. A lot of people are like, if I don't see it on Notion, I forget it exists. And that's why I'm like, well, then have like a major database with filtered views versus creating a bunch of different databases. So I have kind of like in my head what I would recommend from a user perspective as an ADHDer. And that's why my Notion template is all intermixed. So that way you're not just having little silos of information that you just constantly forget about. And that's what I think originally people, when they first start using Notion, is they just create a database for everything. And what I tell them is, the less databases, the better, because then you can actually see all the information, but you can then create views on different pages of that same database. So for example, like your to-do list, you could have it be added to a new page, but it links back to that original database. So instead of creating a to-do list for each project, it's one large to-do list, and then you filter it by project. Does that make sense?
That makes so much sense. That's actually, I'm totally guilty of the siloing. Like, and that's one of
Yeah.
the reasons Notion hasn't always worked for me. And I just now started getting into making dashboards where,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, if I don't see it, it doesn't exist. So I'm like, what
Yeah.
if I make a little button for like all of these silos I've
That's
created? So at least
so
I've got them all on one page and I
So
know they
you
exist.
would like my template, because that's exactly what it is. It's like a bunch of buttons of the main things that I use every single day, and that way it's like a quick, easy way to open them, and it's something that I recommend. But then again, like, some people need to see everything on one long page, so they scroll through and it's like a chart or a dashboard, and it's like, I think that's the thing about Notion, that it's constantly going to be evolving into how you work best, because I think buying somebody else's template is a starting point. It is not like like this is why I'm a big fan of creating your own frameworks. Is like, you might start with a framework of somebody else's, but maybe it doesn't quite work for you. For example, my 13 pillar framework is a variation of August Bradley's PPV framework. So basically, I took just his pillar section of his framework and I kind of tweaked it. I added colors, I added a few more pillars, and that's kind of how, and I always credit him because I'm like, it's a Frankenstein version of his original concept. So it's like, it works for me, and that's like what I got from him. But then I now teach this framework as its own framework. It's like, it's called the 13 pillars framework, and it's like, that's how I organize everything. My email, my Notion, everything is into 13 pillars, and that has become like the thing that people know me for, specifically when it comes to the way that I organize everything is in these 13 pillars. So
Love that. I love that you've got a framework that you're known for that works for you, that works for a lot of other ADHDers. I think that's brilliant. Question for you about Notion, something I've run into is what do you do when your Notion board starts to feel stale and you end up wasting time reorganizing it
Oh yeah, I do
over
that
and over and
sometimes.
over?
Yeah, I think that is one of the things that sometimes can't be avoided. Um, I think to me, is it worth the time to fix? Because it's like for this is the one that I'm like kind of like this might be a time waster. I photograph all of my outfits and I have a board so I can kind of like organize like virtually all of my clothes. So like that might be like a waste of time, but at the same time, it's like I can maybe like pick my outfit out for the week and see how many times I'm wearing it. So I know like how, how to organize and track like what I'm wearing. I don't know, like these are like ways that I've just like used Notion. I've like come up with them because I used to do that in another app and now I'm like I can just do that in Notion. So there's lots of things like I store all of my recipes in there. So it's a great way to just have it's almost like a Pinterest board for all the information that I ever needed. And that's what I love Notion. And I think that Notion is kind of a time suck in some ways. Like I'm gonna be honest, like to use it effectively, you do have to spend time in it. But if it's worth it for me, like I do it in my off hours. I do it like kind of for fun sometimes, because sometimes the stuff that I'm doing isn't like technically business. It's more of like like I've tracked all the movies I've ever seen. Like I use it as like my letterboxed. I track like the amount of data in my Notion would like shock people because I've spent years in it. If you think about it, like I've spent like days in it for years that like I have so much in it that it's overwhelming to a lot of people. But I'm like, for me, I like storing information. So I'd rather have it be in one app than in like a bunch of different notes somewhere, and not be able to be found again.
There is something really comforting about the idea of Notion holding everything. So, like, instead of having Fable for your books and Letterboxd for your
Mhm.
movies, and I don't know what
Goodreads for your
else.
books. I mean, like I put all my books in Notion, all the ones I'm reading. I track what I'm currently reading. I add all my book notes in Notion. I mean, I could make a list of 30 different things that I've gotten rid of other apps. I still use a lot of like I still use Goodreads, but I use Notion more from like a notes perspective. Like I can't put notes in Goodreads. So
Mhm.
it's like I use Goodreads just to like help me know what I want to read next mostly. And then with Notion, it's more of storing the information from the book. So for example, one thing I recommend is, how when you read a book and you download a PDF from the website, like you're reading a book and it's like download the free guide if you're reading like a nonfiction book, and it's like get the free guide at this link. A lot of times you download that PDF and then you never see it again. I
Never.
have a PDFs folder in Notion where it's and then I link it in my database to the book that it goes to. So I know exactly which book it is. And then I take it a step further. This gets into the nerdy side of me. I go to this website called ilovepdf.com. I download the PDF into a JPEG file and upload it into Google Photos. So I have a photocopy of it as well. So if I really wanted to, then I can search for the text because Google Photos has this option where you can search and it will find words on any picture and it will find it for you, which Notion does not have. So
Mhm.
unless I added, which actually they do have a new feature in Notion where you can upload a PDF and it turns it into text, which is very cool. There's like so many cool features, but I still like to have it in Google Photos. So for example, every time I read a book, I read a lot in Kindle. I will save that as a screenshot or I'll save it as like a quote and then upload that to Google Photos. So I have thousands of just screenshots of books I've read because I know like I'm going to use that quote at some point. And then I can search Google Photos for it. So I'm very like save information. I just did a video on my YouTube channel about screenshots. I don't know if you screenshot a lot, but I know a lot of people screenshot. And I'm a screenshot queen. So I like talked about how there was this whole trend on TikTok about people shaming people for screenshotting. And I was like, what? Like that's how I store information. So I didn't understand the shame around that. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna like do a opposite video being like, you should screenshot. It's awesome. Like you can save all your information.
Yeah.
It doesn't stick in my brain?
Absolutely. Even if I think part of the shame trend was like, well, you screenshot all this stuff. It's not like you're ever going to look at it
Yeah.
again. And first of all,
Mhm.
it seems like you do because you
I
organize things
do.
so
I
that you
do.
can.
that's exactly what it was. It was like, it's a trauma response. I'm like, no, for me, I actually screenshot because I actually like look at the information and organize it. So it's like, and I'm also writing a book. So I'm literally taking all these screenshots. So if I ever wanted to think about a book that I read 3 years ago, I have the screenshot of the quote that that stuck with me, and then I can look it up and find that without having to go to the library and get the book again or what, so it's like, it's a way for me to like save information from Facebook groups. I screenshot so many face or Reddit posts where it's like, oh, all this information, it's like I can just screenshot it. It's so much easier for me than copying and pasting. I don't know why, but it's just so much faster to just screenshot it. And then it goes, I know it eventually will go in my Google Photos because I do a sweep almost every day of all my screenshots and just put it into Google Photos. I just literally drag and drop, pop it into Google Photos. And then I don't immediately organize it, but I'll like do it within like the month. I usually spend about 1 day a month going through and adding them to different folders. But what's cool about Google Photos now is there's much more better search. So sometimes you don't even need to add them to folders. You can just search for the word that's in the screenshot, which is cool.
That is awesome. Yeah. Okay, what would you tell someone, perhaps someone like me, who does not necessarily possess some of these compensatory behaviors? Like I am kind of an ADHD stereotype in that I am very disorganized. I do find organization to be like often very tedious and boring and
Yeah.
hard to get my brain to do. So, what would be like your entry point? What's like a
Yeah.
starter way for me to get organized?
Mm. I know this is the first thing that popped up in my head was creating filters on Gmail. Like I know that sounds
Ooh.
crazy, but
No, that sounds great.
so I have a whole video on it. I can send it to you. You can put in the show notes. But
Please.
one thing people don't realize is that you can set up a filter with color and folders in Gmail. Oh, this is actually a big tip as well. I'll just share this now. I create a separate Gmail just for newsletters. So
Mhm.
I have a separate email account that is specifically for when someone's like, sign up with your email. This is just the email. It's Jenna's email newsletters at gmail.com. And so it's very easy for me to remember when I'm signing up for free newsletters. So let me show an example. So that's why I'm willing to share this. This is also the one that I use to share because I know it's only newsletter subscriptions that are coming in. So
Sure.
this is within the last day. So look at the times on the right. These are all newsletters that I'm getting. But you
Yeah.
can see immediately they've already been filtered with both my 13 pillars as well as a color. And so when they come in, they're already in the right folder. And then all I have to do is just archive them. So I just go in and I just go through and then I just archive them. But then they're still in my, so if I wanted to give an example, so this is After School, which is a great Substack newsletter. If I wanted to, I could go in and find all of those newsletters and they've already been archived. They're not deleted. I use newsletters as a way for like research. So if I ever wanted to search something in my Gmail now, it'll come up. So you see how there's like one about Disney? If I search the word Disney, all of the newsletters that have the word Disney in them come up.
Yeah.
So it's like a way for me to almost like have a bunch of like blog posts coming in at me so I can actually do research if I need to. But you can see how they're all organized by category. And I teach this with my 13 pillars. But you can see I subscribe to a lot of newsletters. So it's like, but that's to me like a way that I get information if I ever needed it. So then all I do is just, so you can see how quickly I can just archive them and then it goes down, as it goes. So that way, instead of like individually adding them to folders or something, they're right. I had to spend the time creating filters for each email, but like once I set up a filter, that's it. When an email pops in, it's already filtered because it's coming from the same email address. So for me, this is how and you could do this for any email. I do this for some of my clients as well. Like sometimes people are like, just organize my email. And I'm like, sure, I can do that. I set it up this way. It does take a few hours. Like it will, like the first time you do it, it's going to take a few hours to set up. But then once it's set up, it really does it for itself. And that's what I would recommend for like starting point is like your email is so much of your life. And a lot of times we mix in the newsletters, and the personal emails. So I always recommend creating a separate inbox so that you're not getting notifications on your phone from a newsletter. That's the most, so I actually have taken that off of my phone. So I don't have that email account on my phone. And I just have the emails that are important coming in on my phone, alerting me to things. Cause I don't know about you, but when I get an email, I get distracted. So it's like having having separate emails where it's like, this is not time sensitive. This is just a newsletter email that's going to a separate account.
No, that's brilliant. That actually, I have a lot of that stuff set up for my work email.
Yeah.
I have like, oh, if it has the word like TikTok star in the
Oh,
subject line, it goes straight
nice.
to trash because
Oh,
it's just trash.
funny. Yeah, yeah.
Stuff like that. So I have like trash filters set up, but I do
Okay.
think automatic folder sorting could be
Mm-hmm.
super helpful. And then my Gmail's a mess. I'm one of those like
Yeah, yeah,
100,000
yeah.
people,
But
which
like that's an ADHD thing. And that's why I think it's helpful to um not be ashamed by it because it is very common. I'm not going to shame anyone. Some people like it. They like having it. I'm just one of those people where it's like that to me gets overwhelming and then I feel anxiety because it's like I'm a business owner. I need to know what's going on with people. I don't want to miss an email that's important. So it's like for me, having a place where I can sort all of my non-important emails and then my important ones. Honestly, that's just the main reason that I think. So even if you don't sort those in your in your kind of people call it a junk email, but like I call it a newsletter email because that's really what it's for, is for all my newsletters. So it's like if you don't spend the time sorting that, that's fine, but at least it's not going in your main inbox. Is kind of my like 2 cents, is like at least keep one inbox for like really important emails and then have a separate one for like newsletters.
yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. And I'm definitely going to do that. And then instead of waiting until I have 100,000 emails, maybe I'll set up those tags right away.
Yeah.
And like
Mm-hmm.
every time I set up for a new newsletter, like, oh, I
Yeah,
got to
so
go over to
start now.
Gmail and
Because one thing you can also do is it's not true on everyone, but when you get an email that's a newsletter, you can either unsubscribe at the bottom or you can go in and change the email that it's sent to the newsletter one. So sometimes it'll
Mhm.
say like, do you want to update your information? So then I'll send it to the other one. Or there's also another software called Unroll Me. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Mm-mm.
So look into that too. That's actually an easier way to do it. What it does is it searches your inbox for subscriptions, and then you can either unsubscribe or you can roll it up into one daily email. So that way, instead of getting every single email, it'll like bounce out of your inbox and then just be sent in one like almost like curated list of all your emails. So Unroll Me is great. I've used that one for years too.
Yeah. Oh my
So
gosh, that's awesome. Okay, so that's some email organization.
yeah.
Let's say I am dedicated to figuring out how to organize some stuff on Notion, especially business stuff.
Mhm.
Where do I even start? Because right now my Notion is
Yeah.
just, like I said, it's a bunch of silos that like don't connect.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say I hate to plug it, but I have a template. So it's like I have a template
Yes.
available. I think templates are great. They're a starting point. And also don't get too many templates. This is something that happens when people start downloading Notion is they'll just get like 80 templates. And I'm like a lot of the free ones, maybe they'll invest in one. What happens is none of them talk to each other. So you either want to get an all-in-one system that where everything talks to each other, or you build it yourself. And that's what a lot of people that watch my YouTube videos, they build it themselves from my videos. So I'm always up for like showing everything that I do. You just have to know how to do it. Like I don't give you the step by step, but I'm like, this is how I've structured it. So once you learn Notion enough, you could create anyone else's template.
Yeah.
That's the thing about templates. It's like there's nothing that you can't learn how to do that. Some of them have somewhat like complex like formulas and stuff. So that person has spent the time and so it may be worth it to buy, but for a lot of it is more of just like the time. For example, in my template, I have listed out every single item you'd ever need to shop for groceries. I have an entire list of like every single food. So for me, I use Notion as my grocery list. So instead of spending the time manually putting in all the things in your house, I have it available. So some of what you're paying for with templates is the data. Some of it's the organization. Some of it's the linking of the databases. For you, for business, I would really recommend figuring out what am I using Notion for. I always tell people start with your goals, start with your needs. Is it a CRM? Is it a to-do list? Is it a way to communicate with clients? Really start to make that list and be like, okay, do I need a template for this? Can I create this for myself? Do they need to talk to each other? Because for me, I'm all about linking all my databases together. Because again, I don't like the silo effect where you just create a database and then it's on its own and then you forget about it. So I think having a system where it's like, okay, for example, all of my recipes link over to my ingredients. So anytime that I'm making a recipe, I can see are all of my ingredients in stock, and they link over to another database that has a list of all the ingredients and vice versa. So having it so that you know what connects to each other, but then that database doesn't need to be linked to a business project, right? Because it's food. It doesn't, so I'm saying, so it's like you kind of have to know what works with each other, and that's just going to take some time for you to figure out. That's why I've made it like with my template, it's like this is how I work. Once you duplicate it, you can break it apart, get rid of stuff. You don't be afraid, because once you've duplicated it, it doesn't affect the original template. A lot of people are like scared to like move things around. I'm like, at least once you've duplicated it, you're fine. You can just break it apart and set it up the way that you want. But this is kind of a starting point.
Yeah, I've found that I'm pretty good at Notion when it's like a project. Like for instance, I created a personality map in there that like
Oh,
teaches you
cool.
about astrology and the Enneagram and the Myers-Briggs and
Nice.
allows you to store your type in there so that you don't have to take the quiz every time someone asks you. So like I created that and it was like a project and I was like, that
Mm,
I can do. But then when it comes to like my business, which I feel is very sprawling and
mm-hmm.
chaotic because
Same.
ADHD, that I do find a little more difficult to put together. So I love what you were saying about like know what your goals are. And I think that's where everybody should start when they're starting to get organized because I
Yeah.
think too many ADHDers think that the goal of organization is to not have ADHD anymore. And that's
A
not the goal.
100%. I think that I see so much ads. This is so annoying. It's like cure your ADHD with this app. I actually am going to be doing a video about this, and I've done a little bit about it, but like there's so many of these ads where it's like this system will like fix your ADHD, and I'm like, that is not true at all. That's not how it works. And also, you're going to be more frustrated like by afterwards, because it's like you're going to feel that shame of, oh, it didn't fix me. And like people spend, like I spent so many years buying like paper planners, never using them. I ended up switching to like a bullet journal, because at least that way it doesn't like expire with time. But then I'm like, I don't like writing. So that's the other thing too that I'm going to talk about my book is like some people like digital, some people like paper, some people like, I love an online calendar because it's like it gives me a notification. It's, for booking, it's helpful. Notion calendar is actually, I probably use just as much, if not more, than Notion itself, because it's like my everything calendar. It's my to-do list. It's my content calendar. It's all in one view. And as well as if I get like a booking of a meeting, it's like it's everything is calendarized. And I think as someone who struggles with time blindness, sometimes I need to be like, okay, well, oh, one of the things I do is I have it's called a friendship tracker. So it's like sometimes I forget when was the last time I talked to someone. So I actually made a calendar of the last time I like talked to someone. So it's like, oh, I haven't talked to them since April because they're that on that date on my calendar. And then when I talk to them, I move them to that date. I know that sounds like kind of crazy, but like it's helpful. And then that's my CRM too. So it's like if it's a client, okay, I haven't talked to this client in a month. All right, I need to follow up with them. So for me, like visualizing when I last saw somebody is like a very helpful way to use Notion as well.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, I think that makes total sense. A lot of ADHDers, like you said, it's that object permanence, if,
Yeah.
especially long distance friends, like
Mm-hmm.
it's not that we don't care, it's that our brains are not wired to remember things that we can't see. And like that's okay. There's no
Yes.
shame in that.
I think shame is a big part of digital organization that I want to talk about, because it's like we we are always behind or always struggling, and I think that that is seen as shameful from a neurotypical perspective, when it really is more of a, I just need to figure out how I work. And that's where I'm like, you have to give yourself grace to be like, hey, let's try this, let's try that. And like to me, trying is part of the process of figuring out how you best work. And I think no, people are always like, they feel shame that they forget to use Notion. Like that's how much the shame can like be part of it. It's like, oh, I always forget to use it. And I'm like, that's okay. First off, like just like it's not like it's a life or death situation. But I think what you have to do is you have to integrate it into your life. You have to be like, that's the only place where that information is, so that that's how you open it more. So for me, I've gotten rid of other apps and been like, if I want to find that information, it's only available in Notion. It's kind of how I use it. So it's like that way I'm not like it's a bonus thing. It's like it's a necessity for me. If that makes sense.
That makes total sense. And yeah, I think one of the other aspects of shame too around organization is that a lot of, especially ADHDers, so autistic and
Mm-hmm.
ADHD, we need
Mm-hmm.
explicit instruction on how to clean, how
Yes.
to organize. And so when we don't receive that,
Mm-hmm.
and people assume, oh, it's common
Mm.
sense. Well, a lot of autistic brains don't operate under neurotypical common sense. We have our common sense, which is totally different. And um, knowing instinctively how to organize things when you have executive dysfunction
Mm-hmm.
issues that impact your prioritization and you have like social communication issues that impact your ability to understand the instructions of how to do
Mm-hmm.
it means that there's just a lot of shame around like, well, we start to feel like we need people to do it for us because that's how other people interpret it. They're like, oh, you just want me to
Mm-hmm.
do it for you. And it's like, no, I just need you to
Oh,
tell
yeah.
me step by step how to do
Mm-hmm.
the thing.
And that's why I'm very much into practical videos. Like you'll see in my videos, it's like, do this, then do this, because I think you're right. Like it's sometimes videos are just assuming that you know everything. So I always start with the baseline of like, people may have never opened Notion before because I don't know. It could be, they could be 5 years into using Notion. I have to start at a baseline of like, they don't know how to move anything. And
Mm.
so it's like every time, so it's the curse of knowledge, right? Have you heard of that? So
Yeah.
it's like basically like you forget what people don't, or what you didn't know when you first started. You forget what beginners don't know. So like even today on my workshop, I'm like, oh, people are asking like very basic questions. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. Like not everyone knows this. So it's like for me with my content, I am a, I'm not a fan of fluff. Like that is the thing that I don't like in books is like where people are just like rambling on and on. I'm like, get to the point. I read books to take away information. And if there's not enough of that, I don't like the book. I like books that I come away with like things that I can like concretely come away. Like that's why I love Atomic Habits. Like I don't know if you love like have read that book, but it's like he's like do this and do this. It's very much like instructional, and I think that is helpful. And not every single thing in that book I took away with being like I'm going to use that. I took pieces. And that's the other thing too is find the little pieces that work from other people's systems. Um like I'm really bad at journaling. That's something that I struggle with. Meditation and journaling. Those are the two things that every person in my life has told me to do. I cannot do them for the life of me. Like I don't know why. I have made videos about both of these topics. I'm like I cannot like sit still and just like write or sit still and meditate. But yet like I'm like I know I need to. So it's like there's times where I wish that I was better at those things, but it's like I'm working on other things. I've been doing my 10,000 steps a day. I'm like, that's something that I feel like I can do. And so it's like I'm working on that right now. Um, I just think that having grace for yourself, and no matter what we're doing, but not giving it as an excuse either. It's sometimes it has to go either way. Like you can't just be like, oh, I'm ADHD, I can't do it. Like I think that can become a sort of a limiting belief. But I think grace also versus like I can't be perfect. Like people want to be perfect and they want to like fix themselves to a point where they are neurotypical. I think that's also unhealthy. It's like there's like two very, very different sides, and it's hard to stay in the middle, but sometimes you lean one way or the other. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of got on a random tangent.
No,
Sorry.
no, I love it. I think the like paradigm I tend to operate from is presume competence, but accept limitations. Like they exist,
Oh,
they are
yes.
real, but we're
I
not
love
going
that.
to assume limitations. We're going to assume we can do it until we can't, and then when we
That
can't, we can't.
that is a great quote, and I'm gonna like see it. Like I'm like I'm gonna like
Put it
write
in your
that down.
notion.
Yeah, I'll put it in Notion because it's like I think there's certain quotes that have stuck with me. Like there's that one. I think it's like don't miss 2 days in a row. That's like a big
Mhm.
one that sticks with me. Is like if you miss a day, that's fine, but just don't do 2 days in a row. So it kind
Okay.
of gives yourself grace, but it doesn't make it a pattern or a habit. So it's like
Mhm.
you might. So for example, like um I try to hit 10,000 steps a day. Some days I'll get like 8,000. And at the end of the day, I'm like, no, I didn't hit my 10,000. But it's like, as long as I do it the next day, so it's like you don't want to do that 2 days in a row because then what happens is you start to like roll into something else. So I think with habits, this is another thing I learned about ADHDers. We really can't maintain habits. Like if you miss one day, the habit's gone. So it's like you have to constantly be just like doing it every day, it's not going to be a habit. It's just going to be an action that you're doing. And it's a choice. It's not a instinctual thing. It's like habits are just choices that you make every day for
Yeah.
ADHDers. So I think that's
Yeah.
something else too.
And I really love this concept of persistence over consistence, where it's like, okay,
Mm,
if you can't be consistent, if you just are struggling with that, then
mhm,
instead strive for persistence. Refuse to give up because you will never fail
mhm.
if you just keep going till you succeed, you know?
I'm very good at that. That like persisting, like, cause I'm like, I've had so many things happen to me that it's like, people have told me, they're like, you really don't give up. I'm like, I don't. I'm so one of the things I'm dealing with right now that I've been working on, and I'm gonna be doing a video on it. I have really bad acne on my chest and my back. And I have spent the last 6 months going down rabbit holes trying to fix this. And I'm like, I'm not giving up. Like, I am figuring this out. And I want to, whatever it ends up being, I'm going to make content about it so that other people can learn from this, because it's like, I don't want anyone else to spend 6 months. If you know, if they can find a Reddit post or whatever, and find all the information they need versus all these different things I've tried. I wish that there was like a guide. And I've read books, I've listened to podcasts, I have gone to a naturopathic doctor, I've taken hormone tests. Like, I have tried a lot of things and I'm still not there yet. I think I'm gonna find it, but it's like there's something that I'm not there yet, but I'm like, I can't have this be ruining my life anymore, you know? So it's just like, I am very persistent, and I'm like, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm going to find it, you know?
And that's kind of the way that I like to think about organization because I'm not an
Mm,
organized person. I don't like organization. My brain really rejects it.
mm,
But I also know that I need it in order to be well, and or at least some semblance of it, my version of it, you know? And so
mm,
I'm just gonna keep on plugging away. I'm gonna keep trying stuff. Like I tried Asana for a while, wasn't my favorite, but it worked
mm,
for a little while. I
mm.
tried what are some of the other organizational apps? I tried
Airtable,
Trello.
Trello,
Um,
ClickUp, was that one?
I didn't try
Uh,
ClickUp. I've heard good things from ADHDers actually, but
that one I did like. I thought it was still a little overwhelming in a sense. Like, there were, I don't know. I liked Airtable, but it was too simple, I think, was my
mm,
issue with Airtable. It didn't have the way to embed. It's actually more similar to Notion than any of the other ones because
mm,
it's more database focused, but
yeah.
Notion just like hit my brain in a way. Like, I don't know if you ever like the moment I realized what I could do, I like was in 100%. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for. Like, I wish Notion existed when I was in college. Because like, I mean, like, for the college students now, I'm like, you guys are so lucky, because
Oh
I
my
wish that
goodness, I know.
this would have made my studying life so much
We're
easier.
over here
And
making paper flashcards like fools,
oh
like
yeah.
old
And like, I
people.
remember like Google Docs came out when I was in college. Like, that's
Same.
how, like, it was brand new to like work on one thing with other people. What? Like, it was just so
We used to
new.
have
Like,
to like save Word documents and send them over, and then they would edit it and
yes,
send it back, and you'd
exactly.
have to save it under a different file name. Like
Yes.
we had a million files, this saying final,
Yes.
final
Yes.
one, final
Yes.
two.
Yes, I remember that. I remember that. I mean, and I didn't even have a laptop in high school. Like, I had a home
Mm.
computer, or actually, no, I had like a really old clankety one that it was my dad's hand me down. That's actually how I started making videos, was when I was in high school. I was 15 years old and I started my first ever YouTube channel in 2006. And I went to film school. I have a background in video production, so that was always my passion. I always wanted to be a YouTuber. So now that I am, I'm like, this is so awesome, and I get to talk about Notion, which I didn't even exist for me more than 3 years ago. So I would have never known that that's like what I talk about on YouTube. But it's been really great, and I like to expand, obviously, beyond Notion, because it's like at some point you like run out of videos to talk about. It's like, okay, I've covered everything on Notion. Let's talk about some other digital organization things. Let's talk about ADHD. Let's talk about some other things that I'm currently interested in, that hopefully other people are too. But if not, it's like that video doesn't do well. That's okay. That's just what I wanted to talk about that week, you know?
Mhm.
So.
Absolutely. I know you said like when you find that organizational tool that just clicks with your brain, it can be so magical. I think I may have finally found it, and it's really similar to Notion, but it's called
Okay.
X Tiles.
I've heard of that.
It's literally their grid. It's a dotted grid, like a bullet
Mm-hmm.
journal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, because it is so similar to Notion,
Mhm.
but for some reason, I'm telling you, I just built a CRM in there for my client and it
Nice.
is gorgeous and it was easy and it was fun. And I was
Nice.
like, what is happening to me? Like,
That's
I'm
awesome.
enjoying organization.
And that's the thing that I always say is like find the tool that works for you. I'm not like you have to use Notion. I'm more of like you have to create a system. And that's really
Mhm.
what my goal is and I think it's too late for me to switch out of Notion because I'm so in
Your
it.
life is
Like
in there.
I could export a lot of it, but it would take a really long time, and I don't know how it would work with another system. What's cool about Notion, though, I will say, is you can import a lot of different tools into Notion. So like Trello, Asana, ClickUp, you can actually there's an import tool. So if you want to switch over to Notion and you're like, oh, I don't want to copy all this information, you can import a
They've
lot
got
of it.
you.
I'm not sure about Xtiles, but I have heard of that and I have looked at it, but I should like do a video on that because I do think that that would be a fun one to look into. They've reached out to me being like, "Hey, do you want to promote this?" And I'm like, it's hard because I'm so Notion, like I'm a Notion ambassador, so I'm like, I don't know if I want to like rock the boat and like promote another software,
Mm-hmm.
but like I was like, oh, that'd be interesting to like look into. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, Jenna, thank you so much. Like just letting me pick your
Yeah.
brain about organization. Like as
Yeah.
a very disorganized ADHDer, like I appreciate you and your videos like so much. And
Oh,
I am
thank you.
so sure that my people are gonna love this too. So thank you.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? What is your YouTube channel
Yeah.
and all of that? I'll put it all in the
Yeah.
description, but
Literally, my name is my handle on every platform. It's Jenna Redfield. It's jennaredfield.com. And then if you want just Notion, it's notion.jennaredfield.com. And then for YouTube, it's also just my name, Jenna Redfield. Jenna Redfield is the YouTube. And if you just look up like, oh, and then the Facebook group is Notion for ADHD Entrepreneurs with Jenna Redfield. So again, if you look up my name, you'll find it. Literally, I've made it very easy for people to find me
brilliant.
on every platform. I'm the only Jenna Redfield in the world. So that's actually a cool thing to say. And
Dang.
I own every handle, so I'm good.
As a Megan, I am not the only.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
no,
That's
that's
awesome.
great. Okay, well, thank you so, so much. I will make sure to put your Notion template in the description as well. Make sure everybody can find that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.